Should you play it? Rune was released in 2000, with a PS2 version called Rune Viking Warlord released in 2001, which is what I played as a kid, with an edited digital version released in 2012 called Rune Classic, which is what I recently bought and played. Biggest difference seems to be that Classic doesn't have the multiplayer expansion, and since I didn't really buy the game to play multiplayer, that's mostly fine by me. I mainly remembered the game for fighting Vikings, drinking mead, and eating lizards. And I bought it for $1.99 on Steam, but you can also purchase it on GOG. The story is relatively unimpressive, but not outright terrible. I'd say that it is just bland, but motivation enough to keep going and seeing what is around the next corner. It's basically a cut and dry revenge story. Evil wizard kills your dad and everyone else you know. God brings you back to life and tells you to go kill the evil wizard before he does a lot of very evil wizard things. The art and aesthetic of the levels can range from relatively impressive to pretty bland. I dislike that a good chunk of the game takes place mainly in these rather boring looking caves, but once the world begins to open up and you get into more varied environments, it can be pretty fun to look at and experience. I especially like the Dwarf Fortress. Combat isn't incredibly deep, but it isn't unfun either. The game is basically a third-person hack and slash. I rarely used my shield as I found it ineffective at best and a detriment to me at worst. Movement combined with flurries of attacks worked best for me. Plus, it was always fun to kill an undead warrior only for him to be brought back to life right in time for me to strike him again. Over and over and over. When will they ever learn? The enemy variety isn't huge, but it's relatively solid, and whenever they introduced new enemies, they didn't really overstay their welcome or become stale as you kept going. You do get a pretty good variety of weapons throughout the game as well, but I found that once you get a new weapon, most of the old weapons become basically obsolete. The only thing that really keeps them in rotation is the rune powers that you have, which you can activate and give each weapon a special ability, but I didn't really use them too often, as I found most of them to be a lot less useful than just actually striking the enemies to death. Surprisingly, I actually enjoyed some of the platforming in this game. I don't know why, but a lot of these older games with the big open levels like these and little platforming challenges are actually pretty fun to me. I can't remember a lot of the Unreal Engine games that I played when I was a kid, but I'm pretty sure that this was something that I did enjoy. The kind of floaty nature of it made platforming a lot of fun, actually. Spinning off of what I just said, the level design in this game, when it comes to like a structure point of view, is pretty great. While I did find exploring to be disappointing at times because of the lack of secrets and hidden rewards, it was fun to climb around the levels and find some alternate routes through the levels that would help me get to the end of them. A criticism I do have of this level design, though, is that some levels, the combination of the art as well as the way they're designed can make them into like small labyrinths. You won't get lost in them forever, but lost enough that you might become a little agitated or frustrated at best. Never enough to quit or anything like that, but it's noticeable. I played the game on normal and streamed most of my playthrough. While I was streaming, someone pointed out that some parts of the game could actually be pretty difficult, but for me, I had a relatively easy time to get through it all. The game wasn't so easy that it was boring, but if I was ever stuck on something for a relatively long time, I'd figure it out pretty easily after a good few tries. The only thing that I ever found frustrating was the game crashing once or twice and just forgetting to save in one of these older games and then accidentally reloading way farther back than I wanted to and losing like 20-30 minutes of progress or something like that. That was pretty frustrating. I did run into a few bugs and glitches through the game. Most of them weren't game-breaking, they were just pretty funny or stupid, honestly. Like corpses coming up through the floor, or trees spinning around or turning upside down, or just textures not popping in. There is one game-breaking bug that I can mention, though. Towards the end of the game, there's a part where you have to turn off the audio completely or the game just hard crashes every time. It almost froze my computer at one point, so look out for that. I'll leave that level and part of the game in the description so you can be on the lookout for it. No real stick-out bosses or moments, just a relatively fun game and a good time sink compared to the price. Is it the best game I've ever played? Not really. Was it fun? Yeah, it was pretty fun. For story, I'd give it a 4 out of 10. For art, I'd give it a 5 out of 10. For gameplay, I'd give it a 7 out of 10. And for price compared to the overall package, I'd give it an 8 out of 10, with an overall score of 24 out of 40, or 6 out of 10. As I said at the beginning, I mainly remembered this game for fighting Vikings, eating lizards, and drinking mead. And you know what? All of that still holds up. While the game isn't the best I've ever played in the world, for the price that I paid for it, the overall experience is pretty great and fun. I wouldn't put it in my top 10 games of all time, but it's a fun time waster, and I'm pretty sure at the time it was released it was a nice change of pace. I don't think there were many Unreal Engine games that were third-person melee based with a Viking backdrop. I could be wrong though. So, should you play it? Yeah, I think so. If you like these kind of older games, I think you'll probably have a blast. And even if you don't, if it looks interesting enough to you, you should pick it up on sale. I don't think you'll feel like you wasted your money when everything's said and done. Thanks for watching. I'm Ghost on Holiday, and I hope you enjoyed this kind of review. This is a first for me. It's relatively straightforward and just kind of some notes. So, just trying something new, a kind of short video. Hope you enjoyed it, and if you do decide to play Rune, come back and tell me if I was the one who inspired you to do so. Have a great day and a great holiday. Bye-bye.